available, so I'm deleting it.
All right, pressing the button, Frank. All right, so let's see what happens. All right, pressing the button, Frank. All right, well, looks like we're live on. Now we're live on Facebook.
Yeah, I just got a notification. Woo!
All right, so we're live.
Run the banner.
Do we like Facebook again?
We're on Facebook, but it's a different video link now. It's not the original link that I posted.
Do we like Facebook again?
Yeah, you know, it is what it is. It is what it is.
We put the F in Facebook.
We put the F in the Facebook. Yes.
Why is this Zuckerberg?
All right. So why is
Steve?
Yes.
Do you notice that you have a yellow message on your screen saying, which it will automatically connect when you start streaming to Facebook, blah, blah, blah?
Which I'm trying to fix right now.
Okay.
That I'm trying to fix. Okay, Facebook reactions animation. That I'm trying to fix right now. Automatic. All right. So that should be son of biscuit. Okay, now it's there. It's there. Okay, so I apologize, guys. Technical difficulties out the wazoo. Trying to get a multi-stream to Facebook. It did not start streaming right away, but we are streaming now. Yep. We are going to start the train wreck as we speak. So let's cue the intro music, shall we?
CoCoTALK After Dark. CoCoTALK After Dark.
That's right. When you can't get enough old white guys during the day, they're back at night, but now they're cranky because they're tired. Add alcohol and skip a few pills, you never know what you're going to get.
Yep.
All right. And here we are, everybody. Welcome to Train Wreck After Dark. I will be the conductor on this train wreck. I am your host with the least. I am Stevie Stroh. I am joined by a panel of experts and other people.
Which one am I?
And Nick Marotta. Everybody, Nick Marotta's here.
The above. Excellent.
We've got Nick Marotta live in the studio. Nick Marotta is here. Hello, Nick Marotta. We've got all the way from, matter of fact, I want to say right now that the entire population of Ecuador that owns a switcheroo is with us on the show right now. That would be Diego.
It's Uruguay, actually.
Uruguay. What did I say? Ecuador?
Yeah.
Uruguay, Ecuador. Okay.
They're warmer.
They sound similar.
Their weather don't suck. Ours does.
Rob Inman says, white guys plus boner pills equals CoCoTALK After Dark. This episode's brought to you by Viagra. Right, so it's Uruguay. Uruguay is here. Diego, go. Welcome back to the show, Diego.
Thank you.
We've got from the country of Arizona, Ron Delvaux back for twice in one day.
Yes, the old guy. A cranky old guy.
Have you taken your pill?
Yes, I have. I have my cane right here.
We've got an international celebrity, Nick Marotta. Nick Marotta's in the house. Hey. We've
Nick,
got...
are you Italian?
I actually am half, yes.
Me too.
Oh,
Top
cool.
half or bottom half?
The most important half.
Oh, Lord. Dear Lord, have mercy on us all. We've got from New Jersey, what exit? Al Hartman's in the house. Hello, Al. How are you?
Exit 117.
117 off the Jersey Pike.
And if you see that in your windshield, keep driving.
As the old saying go, happiness is Lubbock, Texas in my rearview mirror. We've got from somewhere in Ohio, we've got a guy who has been seen at, I forgot your list of credentials, Jason. They are long, they are lengthy. But PenFest 99, PenFest 2000, Korgs Fest, Hamvention, CoCo Fest 2018, maker of the Switcheroo, Mr. Jason, the Coco Man Reichert is with us, everybody.
Hey.
And last, but certainly not least, international celebrity game designer to the stars, Mr. Rick Adams is with us.
Oh, thank you. You're too kind. Okay.
Thank you. You're too kind. Yes.
A legend is on my mind, yes.
Yes. And in the live chat, we've got Disney Saints fan. Hello, Disney Saints fan. We got Brian Mathern on Facebook. Steve Powell is here. Rob Inman, Nick Marotta. Nick Marotta is here. And Rob Inman and Al Hartman. And yeah, we're here. It's Retro Talk After Dark, CoCoTALK After Dark, Geek Talk. We're going to talk. I have a feeling. I have a prediction right now. My magic 8-ball says that at some point in time in this evening, we will be talking about Star Trek. I have a feeling that Al Hartman will probably have a story about a friend who's been on a show.
I told all my stories. I don't know.
And you never know, but it always seems we end up talking about Star Trek, and that's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. But when we do an After Dark, we are not really confined to talk about just about anything. But how about we do this? Since we've got international celebrity Nick Marotta with us. Nick, why don't you tell us what you've been up to lately?
Okay. Well, I haven't been doing a whole lot in the CoCo realm. I don't know what to say. Just kind of hanging out. I play ukulele. You probably don't know that.
I did not know that.
There's your trivia for today about me. And not a whole lot.
Can you play a little tune for us while we're on the show? A little live rendition? Can you possibly do the CoCoTALK After Dark theme song on the ukulele?
I don't know what the chords are. CoCoTALK After Dark.
Everybody. That's pretty damn good. You got talent there, son. I expect some
you
bumpers.
You play guitar, don't you, Steve?
I've played Guitar Hero.
Oh, I thought I saw a guitar in your...
Yeah, they're Guitar Hero guitars. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I play that too.
Yeah, I play the air guitar.
Air guitar.
Yeah, I can play the air guitar.
Anybody else here play instruments?
I can play guitar, but I only know if like one chord.
I can play the drums, and
cool.
And I can
play guitar and drums.
Yeah, I can fake play the keyboard. I can produce notes, but if you ask me what they were, I couldn't tell you. Because I'm musically illiterate. So I couldn't play with anybody else because I wouldn't know what key they were playing in. And like, I don't know how to play by ear, but I could, since the piano is always in tune, I can make chords and melodies on a keyboard, but I have no idea what I'm doing with it.
I played in a band called Boogie Blues Band when I was 18, and we made like 3-4 songs. I got it on SoundCloud's got one of them. And
on KTEL Records.
You can go hear it. It's called Pinstripe Clothes. Bluesy.
Oh, so you said that was a guitar you played?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'd like to hear it.
Yeah. SoundCloud.
Yeah. Hey, Paul Fiscarelli's back with us. How you doing, Paulie?
Another Italian.
Yes. Sorry, guys. We're just on mute there. Doing just fine. I just got done posting the latest episode of Long Branch Never, so I wanted to get that out of the way.
Nice.
Taken care of.
I've got to watch that. I still haven't watched it.
I believe I've got everything set up. I wasn't missing much in the video. My only question for you now is, you showed that if you run the assem bat file and the name of your assembly source code and you don't specify anything, that it generates it to an output, but I don't, like on the screen, but I don't think it sends it to an emulator.
That's correct, Stevie. So if you just want to see the compiled output and make sure that the code compiles properly, you just leave off the emulator off the end as the third option, or as the second option, command line argument. So right now I just have it set up for VCC. I saw your comment that you were looking for what you would do for MAME.
Yeah, because you mentioned MAME was the default in your setup.
So it's default if you just it's the default emulator in the sense that if you don't specify VCC or XROR, it's automatically going to assume MAME. And what you need to do, though, is you need to specify which target machine in MAME that you're actually going to open it up in. And as you're aware, you have...
like CoCo 2, CoCo 2B, CoCo 3.
Exactly.
So would that be the second output option then?
Exactly. So that would be the second command line argument.
So I would type in assemb space assembly space CoCo2.
Exactly. But
okay.
one thing that you need to pay attention to, and I did mention it in the comment, or I mentioned it in the video, I think. But one thing that you need to be aware of is the default assemb.bat is set up for my environment, which is mess. So I use mess UI.
Okay, I saw that.
But if you change that to MAME, it should work just fine.
Yeah, and I think I'm using that too. I'm using mess.
And I was going to explain that when I actually get into the episode of setting up MAME.
Okay.
MAME is a bit more complicated than VCC. VCC works great right out of the box, so to speak.
Right.
The problem with MAME is it doesn't include any of the ROMs, and you have to download those from any location you can find them. And I just wanted to prepare better for that. And
I get it. I get that. That part I get. And I don't need help on understanding how to set up MAME. I was just wondering, how do I trigger MAME? And I believe you've answered my question. So I just specify the version of CoCo, which is basically would be, So like in my case, it would just be like CoCo2.
Yep. And actually, if you look in the comments in the actual assemb.bat file, it tells you how to do it. It tells you what you need to specify.
Okay. So I think I'm fairly good at this point. I'm going to try some source code tomorrow.
So Stevie, I just posted the second episode, which is the Hello World app. And as part of that, there's a link to a little assemb source code template that you can download and use that to start coding. So that gives you just the raw basics of what you need. And I explained the various pieces of it. And it's extremely simple. I explained the various pieces of it in the video that I just posted.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, so try to follow along with the Hello World app that I just posted and let me know how you make out.
Okay.
One of the things that I'm struggling with, and I think I mentioned this the last time, things that people have a tendency to do on a day-to-day basis or have become acclimated to, there's a lot of things that people will take for granted, and as they try to explain something, it doesn't always translate well. And things that they believe are commonplace that other people share knowledge of, they don't, people don't always share the same common frame of reference. So I'm hoping that I'm doing a decent job in explaining things at a very basic level that people are going to be able to pick up on it. And ultimately, I don't want to confuse people anymore if they are already confused. So let me know how it looks, and let me know how it goes. If the flow seems like it's okay, or if there's anything that you think needs to be modified.
Okay. But I gotta say, just the part on how to set up the environment, I was able to follow it. So, and I'm just gonna modify mine a little tiny bit, because instead of doing everything off of the desktop, I'm gonna probably just be going to a G drive, which is my Google Cloud drive, and modifying all the paths to work off of that.
Yeah, perfect. And like I said, it should work fine, just modifying the paths. And you should be okay.
Perfect. Yeah, but I like it. I understand everything you've done so far with it.
And this one that I just posted, just as a heads up to you, I know you're a big fan of the visuals, so I made sure to include some visuals in this one.
Okay. Excellent. And Steve Bjork has joined us. Hello, Steve.
Hey, how's everything going, folks?
We're going.
Hey, Steve.
Hey,
great episode today. I was telling the guys earlier after the live feed wrapped up, it seems like, and I could just be getting a read on this, and I don't know, Stevie, you might want to chime in. It seemed like you were picking up quite a bit from Steve's lecture today, where we thought you were going to have a lot of Steve Con 1 moments. It seemed like you had a pretty solid understanding and were following it very well.
Well, so to be honest with you, it was a balance of, I would say 20% of what he mentioned I was able to grasp. And so those are the ones I commented on. So I seemed to be completely in the know at all times. But it was only the times I spoke I was. There was many other times where I didn't speak because I was just and it doesn't make sense to interrupt him while he's talking because I'll get it eventually.
Yeah, sure. But Stevie, the key takeaway from the points that you re-articulated back to us, those were some challenging points that Steve was trying to make, and you got them spot on. So you did an outstanding job picking up on that stuff today.
Well, it's kind of like what you just said a minute ago when you go to explain something. Common sense is a paradox because what's common to each of us, it's not common to anybody else. So some things he says are common sense to me because I understand things about binary, and even though I don't understand assembly, I understand certain things you want to do efficiently. So as soon as he was explaining things like, well, this one can do 4 bits and you can do up to 16 numbers left or right, I understood that was probably there for efficiency's sake, so that to me was common sense, but that won't necessarily be common sense to everybody. So
yeah, I mean, I hadn't got to the point about it being efficient, but you picked up right on that, which maybe said that I was definitely going the right direction with some of the analogies there. I thought the card index where you put your finger in the middle of the card.
No, that's good. And that's helpful.
Kind of worked well for it. And I was surprised when I pulled out my hat about on the card is the Dewey Decimal System to find the book on the bookshelf part for the indirect analogy. I that one just came to me in the moment. So yeah, it is a difficult subject because it's so powerful.
Well, your course is like a crash course in Computer Science 101 as well. I mean, you're teaching concepts like stacks and all kinds of stuff that you don't have in basic.
It's going to be a lot better for the students when we actually start utilizing everything I've taught, when we actually sit down and code. That's the reason why I am so grateful for Paul and what he's done as far as laying the framework for people to get up and running.
Yeah, actually, one thing I would say to add to what Nick was saying, it's a crash course in Computer Science 101. I wish that they were still teaching this in college or at any level in the education system. It doesn't seem like anybody's teaching assembly anymore, and you really have to look for it in a computer science program. So this would be, extremely helpful for anybody that's looking to get into coding. And I know that, people want to jump into, the higher level languages and, the UI based compilers and everything, or interpreted languages. But, having this foundation gives you some core tools that you're not going to get at any other level. So it would be great if what Steve Bjork is doing, was actually taught in Computer Science 101.
Well, believe it or not, before I was taught assembly, I was taught microcode.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, it freaked me out that that's what they were teaching me by these college undergrads. They were playing around with a microdata computer, and the microdata assembly was written, or machine code was written in microcode. So they decided to teach everybody that first. And talking about, you have to know hardware.
Yeah, Steve.
It's down to the middle.
Steve Bjork, I was curious what background you had before you started coding the games for CoCo.
Well, as I said in the show, I remember crawling around inside of a PDP 1140 trying to figure out what was causing the hardware not to work so well, because the professor had taken a chip he purposely had blown, stuck it in the machine, and then we had to figure out why the machine didn't work so well.
Oh, wow.
And actually, we had to figure out first that it wasn't working so well. And then that would trace us down to the stuff. And you're literally pulling out TTL chips, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. But that was in college. Actually, I started taking college courses of computers when I was 16.
Okay.
And so, I mean, my dad used to design computers for Litton Electronics, small little machines about the size of an air conditioner, like the Altar 8800. They were that size, but much more powerful, and they would go into aircraft carriers, submarines, stuff like that. And he was designing not only digital computers, but analog computers too.
That's
but
something.
none of he couldn't talk to me about anything he really did because it was all classified. So I picked up most of the stuff about computers on my own. And the first computer I ever brought home was a TRS-80. Though I did play with an Altar 8800 that somebody else had.
Which TRS-80 was that you got?
Model 1.
Model 1, right, okay.
I think it was production number unit 15.
Gee.
Serial number 15.
Wow. Hey, Nick Marotta, just so you know, when somebody says TRS-80,
yes,
the Model 1 is silent.
Oh, okay.
Because it wasn't called Model 1 when it
Yeah,
first.
it was just the first TRS-80 was just the TRS-80.
It was known as just the TRS-80 at the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
I
they
the
made
computers a little bit after that. So
the production run was 5,000 units. It was about the smallest run they could do to make it affordable. And what they figured is they had about 5,000 stores at the time. So if the machine didn't sell, they could just use it in the store as an aid to do the accounting.
Yeah.
What you should check out, Nick, is Don French was the keynote speaker at Tandy Assembly last year, and he was an instrumental player and pulling that together. He gave a great talk last year at Tandy Assembly. Steve did a recording of it. So
yeah, I think is that where he told that story? Because I think I've heard that story before.
Yeah, that's where he told it. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think I may have watched that stream.
So check that out if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
And for the first 6 months that Tandy was selling their first computer in Los Angeles, I was the #1 salesman. And just to show how corrupt the manager of the store was, I never made commission.
Wow.
It was like I sold the machine, but he took credit for all the sales.
Hey, Rob Inman's asking, how do you microcode or hand code? Is it ones and zeros, or how is it done?
Well,
very carefully.
It was done in Octal on the microdata computer. But yeah, it was done by hand. You wrote it down and you did it that way because there's no programs to assemble the microcode. They just never got around to doing it. It's a little bit like when Rick was showing the front of his PDP 11, it was, right, Rick? You're muted. Anyways, on the front of the panel. Okay, on the front of the PDP had the code that you put in to boot the machine. So that even shows these machines were so archaic, they didn't even have ROMs in them to start up to try and read something in to get it going. I mean, the CoCo has a ROM. Even the TRS-80 had a ROM. The Altar 8800 had no ROM. You had to flip the switches on the panel to load in a program, to load in the program to make it useful.
That almost sounds like one of those indirect things you were talking about today, right? You had to load in a program to load the program.
Yeah, I used to watch the guys at the Homebrew Computer Society up there in Silicon Valley during those early days back in 75, 76, when I was driving up there. I mean, I was a young kid, and I was driving 360 miles to go to a computer club meeting. Anyways, I'd watch the guys, and they could flip those switches really fast and put the programs in and like that. And then you'd see people like Steve Wozniak show up with little computers they're working on or other things. It was definitely the Wild West of computers back then. Yeah,
cool.
I love that display. I mean, the first time I saw that, Rick, I had to really look hard to see if that was something on the monitor. That looked real.
It does. It even looks real as I'm sitting here.
Yeah. Incredible.
I love the Cylon effect of that bottom panel, too.
As I've mentioned on the show before, you got machine language. That's where you're actually writing the individual instructions by hand without the aid of another program other than something that's allowing you to poke the numbers into memory. And audio spectrum analyzer and clowns and balloons were written that way. The rest of the programs.
Clowns and balloons or popcorn?
Oh, you're right. It was popcorn. It was popcorn.
From those early computers with the front panel switches was where we got the term bootstrap from, or booting.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Because you would toggle in a bootstrap loader, and then you'd feed in your paper tape, and you would load in more software.
Wow.
And because otherwise it would take forever to toggle it in. And then if you had disk drives or some other form of storage, you could then activate that. But Steve is right. There's ROMs in those early computers came a lot later on.
Yeah. Well, like somebody that had one of the original Altar 8800s, you had a quickie little program that you would flip in that just gave it enough intelligence. This program was just stupid enough to read in a paper tape. And then that paper tape would load in a larger program that could load in something like BASIC. And by the time you got done loading everything, you had a whopping 200 or 300 bytes of memory left to write the BASIC program in.
Wow.
I think the story was when Bill Gates and who was the other guy that started Microsoft? There was another programmer.
Paul Allen.
Maybe Paul Allen. When they were on the plane flying to demonstrate Microsoft BASIC to the owner of IMSI, he realized he didn't have a loader for the tape drive, and he wrote it on the train in machine language without an assembler, by hand assembling the bootstrap loader so that they could load in the tape that they had of the BASIC into the IMSI.
That's pretty hardcore.
That it worked the first time.
Yeah, it was actually the MITS Altair.
The MITS Altair, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah, the IMSI was a clone.
Yep.
Yeah, and here's the real kicker about all this stuff is we've got people coming out of college that are so lazy they cannot imagine trying to sit down and create an environment. Somebody else has to create the environment for them, has to do all the work. I mean, Paul, you could imagine if even what you've set forth for somebody to sit down and write assembly language programs, what you put together, would it be too much work for these guys? It's just, they're so lazy. And the code that they write is so fat, so big, and so slow. They're just bloated.
That's why I say you guys were programming gods, because you had to worry about size and speed and everything. You had to eke every possible clock cycle and byte. And I'm really like, you guys can program circles around anybody today.
About every year I go over to my old alma mater, UCLA, and I teach a class for, at that time when I was going to school, he was a young professor. Now he's much senior, but he has me teach a class on efficiency because nobody talks about it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, they just figure Moore's law is going to apply, and next year there'll be a faster computer, so they don't have to worry about it.
No, they just want to simply get the program done so they can go to the next one and make more money. And of course, their dream is to work for some company that's going to go public in the next 2 years.
It's also a large contributor to why we have so many security issues that we have today.
And why everybody ships programs with the plan to ship updates to fix bugs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one last comment. Get off my lawn.
I know we sound like grumpy old men now, but it's all true.
Damn kids.
Kids.
Kids these days.
Back
Don't know
in
what
my
it's like.
day,
Kids these.
back in my day, we had to really code. We had to worry about every clock cycle, every byte.
I think it was more fun back then, too.
Yeah.
They don't know their C load from their assembler.
Well, I mean, it's even now. It's like I've been somewhat procrastinating and somewhat just life gets in the way. But I've wanted to learn assembly since I've had my CoCo. And it's now within the grasp of even mortals to do that. And so I want to do it, but you could ask yourself, but why? Why would somebody in the 21st century want to learn assembly when if all I want to do is make a game? There are so many easier ways for me to not only make a game, but to get it into more hands, because I could use some over-the-counter program to make a game that would run on a smartphone and run on the browser and all kinds of stuff. So if I just wanted to make a game for people to enjoy, there would be a lot easier ways for me to do it and to get it out into a larger sphere of influence. But I am choosing to do, just like my first project was doing it in BASIC. Now I'm going to do one in assembly, and I've got to learn the language before I can use the language. But it's just like I want to because I've always wanted to. And it's going to be fun to learn that. And once I learn assembly, I'm assuming, this is probably a safe assumption, if I can learn assembly, then learning something like C or C++ or something like that, that really shouldn't be that hard, right, to make that leap?
Right.
And the thing is, assembly can actually lead you to good programming practices.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I have to comment on one thing that one student said when I was giving the class, I think 2 years ago at UCLA. The kid kept on saying, well, why do we need to make the programs more efficient? The server can just throw more cores at it and it'll run faster. And like that. And I'm going, dude, cores cost money. You get charged for them. And in the corporate world, you're not going to last long if your code costs more money than the guy in the next cubicle.
You know something? The company that I work, sorry, just a brief note. The product that we created, that it's a desktop application for business, small business, the recommended setup, it's an i7 CPU at 3.4 gigahertz.
Ouch.
Okay? So,
gigahertz.
Yeah, they have the recommended and they have the minimum. The minimum is like start the program, go brew your coffee, come back, type in one command, and go make another cup of coffee.
Yeah, the requirement for that is actually anything that will run the operating system.
Right. But if you want to be a happy user, you've got to have one of the most expensive computers out there. But no, I just could not believe, well, they'll just throw more cores at it if it's too slow. Why do I have to worry about being efficient? And when I kind of said, it's basically who they're going to keep in that cubicle, you or the other guy that doesn't need as many cores, you're costing the company money. And he finally got the idea.
Yeah, that's been kind of like the Microsoft approach to their operating systems and applications for years, was just keep bloating the code and expect people to buy bigger, fatter machines to run our bloated code. Mm-hmm. I mean, at least recently with things like Windows 8 and Windows 10, it actually is a leaner OS, but it's only taken them, how many years to get to that point?
Well, that's because they're not supporting as much as they used to. You wouldn't believe the different networking stacks that they used to have in Windows. And they got rid of, I think, was it 70% of them? All of a sudden, you couldn't do a particular type, I don't know if it was NetBEUI or something, but it wouldn't work on Windows anymore. Yeah, because they got rid of it. And all these other things that they would support and have part of the operating system that they were paying licenses for.
Wow.
And so, yeah, they did pull it down. But that's the thing, is Windows had the job of supporting everything that came before it. Linux, you can compile down to just what you need.
In the early days of Mac OS X, it used to be that each successive revision got faster and less buggy than the one before. And I don't have a Mac that'll run the latest version, so I don't know if that's still true. But
well, that part of the problem is they use C# and they had to spend a lot of time trying to make the C# compiler more efficient.
And Blake Hughes has joined us. Hello, Blake.
Hey, Blake.
Yeah, I think efficiency is a lost art, and I would assume that most people who are writing in assembly these days are probably just guys who are working like drivers and kernels and stuff like that. That almost everything else is probably done in some version of C, right?
Even some of the drivers are now done in C. I feel sorry for those drivers.
Right.
If those are embedded devices, they would have similar constraints, right?
And assembly is still widely used in embedded systems.
And you'd have memory constraints in those, I think.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to be very efficient working in embedded systems.
Yeah. I mean, and if you think about it, and this is not only, 8-bit technology versus today's technology, but in any medium, if you look at where mankind was before, there's always been limitations. Like, so there's been limitations on civilizations and construction tools and transportation. There's all these different things. So when you look back in the past and you see what people were able to achieve without all the modern tools and technologies and conveniences, that they were able to achieve these amazing things by hand for the most part. Look at any type of music or art or, architecture, constructions. You look at some of these castles in England, that, like, how did they build those? They didn't have cranes. They didn't have all these powers. So the fact that throughout time, humanity has been able to achieve greatness despite limitations, it's been proven over and over again. And it's almost to the point now where technology becomes an enabler, to where we've got so much technology, we don't have to think anymore. We don't have to work anymore. We just can push buttons and drag and drop and have the tech work for us. The whole innovation component and the creative component and all these things, they're kind of not part of the process anymore, it feels like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look at the pyramids. They are so big. They're so perfect the way they got built, as far as how they are, direction, how the stones are put together. And it's like, oh, gee, those ancient people were dumb. How could they do that? Well, they had learned a few things in 2,000 years. Look how much we've learned in the last century or two. Yeah. So there's something to be said for technology and a lot of forgotten technology on top of that.
Yeah.
What do you say? Multitasking, real-time operating system, multi-user that runs in 64K in a 2 megahertz computer. Oh, that's aliens.
Yeah.
Aliens. Yeah, right. Like Easter Island, right? And it's
yeah, I'm sure Curtis's ears are burning right now.
So at work, we had a bunch of software that was written in C, and one day we get a report from a customer. Oh, it's bombing out. It's crashing, and it gives. Well, what's the error? Odd address trap. What the bleep is that? And I'm like, oh, odd address trap. Okay, and everybody looks at me like I'm from Mars, and I said, okay, well, let's see. Okay, we can tell it's crashing in this C routine. Well, let me reassemble. Let me rebuild that. Except for that C routine, I'll turn on the option to dump out the raw source code that the C compiles to, and then I'll look at that. Oh, okay, it's bombing out at this address, and so it's got this assembly language instruction, and odd address trap. Oh, okay, it's got a bad, it's an addressing mode, and it's got a bad value going into the index register, and it's coming from here. Oh, it's an uninitialized variable in C. It's like, and they're looking at me like I'm from Mars. It's like, everybody's like, and it's coming from here. Oh, it's how is he doing that? It's like
hold on, Rick, hold on one second. I just clicked on something. Sorry about that. I just clicked on a video and I had double sound. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Go back to the part where you were from Mars.
Well, I'm from Mars. Yeah. I was doing all this stuff, and they were like looking at me like, I didn't know you could do this stuff. This guy's from Mars. What's he doing? So it's just a matter of, when you understand assembler, you understand how things work under the hood. So you're not stuck as much as some other people. You have secret power.
Yeah, very true. Hey, Ron Delvaux, Steve Powell's asking if you're running a biorhythm program there.
I absolutely am, and I'm in September right now, and I'm coming up on October.
Cool.
And this is for myself, so I don't know if it's going to help anybody else, but it's physical, emotional, and intellectual.
Oh wow!
Looks like they're swinging up together.
Swinging up together. Now, I've always felt like especially back in the day, and even now today, the people who knew assembly, who could make video games, I always looked at that as a superpower. It kind of is. You know, you just know things that the average mortal civilian doesn't know. You've got the ability to create amazing things, and it is a power. It's a gift. You know. And will you use it for good or will you use it for evil? I guess that all depends. You could be a superhero or a supervillain. But
look at that. I, P, and E together on the downside.
Yep.
Okay.
Bummer.
What does that mean?
Oh, everything's going to crap.
Oh yeah.
Next
means,
3-4 days, it's all on the bad side.
Ah.
Biorhythms is nothing more than a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's telling you you're crap, so you're going to think you are, so you are crap.
But it's also got an upside.
Yeah, and then when it goes on the upside and something goes wrong, you go, oh, that just shows biorhythms aren't right.
What?
I need to go look for for my mood ring now.
Yeah, where's the mood ring?
And we'll make these biorhythms for people.
Well, this tells me.
I said, well, I can't do that. And he says, why? Well, because I don't believe in it. He says, so we'll make money.
I'm not making any decisions till the 20th, 21st. Outside. So I'm going to hold off.
That's looking pretty good over there.
Ron, you got to read your horoscope and average them out.
Yeah, well.
The rest of it, oh man, Mercury's in retrograde. Forget that. Just stay in bed.
Now, biorhythm is not affected by Y2K?
No.
Okay.
No, right up.
Aquarius.
2018, right there.
Okay. I don't understand
pie. I see lots of pie.
Well, see, the problem, and I remember calculating people's biorhythms back in the mid 70s, later 70s, and stuff like that. And it's like you're dating it from the day of birth, like your biological cycles start on that day, and there's nothing in your life that will vary those cycles and cause them to shift. Right. And I got a Brooklyn Bridge I want to sell you.
Well, it looks like during Tandy assembly, I'll be good. 11, 10 to the 11th on the 11th month. My physical's going to be great.
Excellent.
Not so smart though.
But I do remember an article that came out about that time about biorhythms in Scientific American, and they said what you need to do is plot how you feel on each of those different rhythms to sync them up with your current life so you can predict the future.
Gary.
But anything that's calculated from the day of birth is a bunch of bunk. You might as well do astrology.
Yeah, I agree.
What about calling a psychic?
I figure that the most relevant thing will be, when I was the moment that I was conceived was the closest wall socket 110 or 220.
Yeah, really. Exactly. Well, the computer's doing it, so it makes it magical, right?
Right. Well, yeah, it's computer.
Well, to Rick Adams and myself, since we know the machine so well, there's no magic in here.
Wait.
It's not magical.
No.
It's our algorithms. We're telling you what to do.
Sorry.
It's not doing it on its own. We are the ones that told that computer to do that.
Look how blazing fast this is.
I want to come up with a new biorhythm thing for you that will tell you to go jump off a cliff.
Yeah. But it looks really cool, though.
It does look cool.
It looks way cool.
I want to believe.
The picture above the astrology in the newspaper, I mean, with all the stars and like that and the constellations, that picture looks really cool too. But does that mean you got to believe everything below it?
I like the Chinese zodiac myself because I'm a rat. Hey, Bill Noble has joined us live.
People who thought Eliza was a real person.
Brian Joyce is watching us in Australia on Facebook. Bill Noble is watching us in Canada on Facebook. Hey, guys. We got 6 people watching us on Facebook. We got 15 people watching us on YouTube. Do the math. Yeah, what was another one that was on the... So Eliza, was that the one that was kind of like the artificial intelligence? You were talking to a shrink who would ask you questions.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah.
Tell me more about
today.
whatever.
Well, tell me about feeling crappy today. Why do you feel crappy today? Yes.
Now, there is some AI out there that will ask you like 20 questions and get to the root of what you're thinking. Like it'll ask you to think of something. It'll ask you a series of structured questions. It'll get down to fairly accurate what it is that you were thinking about. I don't know if that's the Google AI or whatever it was, but there's still all the modern computer learning stuff is impressive and scary at the same time. There is some AI out there. Okay, we're getting some feedback from Barry Nelson. You're thinking it'll have to think of something. Barry, I just muted you, so do something. Let us know. Send me a chat when you got your sound part worked out. Yeah, but that Eliza was kind of neat, right? Because it was kind of like talking to a shrink, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, that was one of the first programs I got with my level 1.
Yeah, one of the class assignments I had was to write an Eliza-like program. And that was fun. But see, something like that, where you're parsing words and trying to understand stuff, that's core for doing things like adventure games. And where did that get used? Sands of Egypt.
Infocom was great for that. Infocom had a good parser.
Yep.
Well, now that I've talked all about feeling crappy, then now Amazon's going to start showing me ads for toilets now.
Alexa.
Hey, I've got one of those Alexa dots, and it's a great alarm clock. It, plays my music. And here's something. I'm not the world's best speller, but I can sit there and ask my device, how do you spell a word? And it spells it back to me. And that keeps me from having to go to my electronic dictionary.
Wow.
A little faster.
Hey, Brian Joyce says, hey, guys. Hey there, you grumpy old boogers.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah. Carlos is here from our Florida Retro Club. Hey, Carlos, hello from Weston, Florida. Bill Noble says, Eliza was the first basic program I entered into a machine. Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. And what was Bill's first machine? The Magic Elf or something like Cosmic Elf? One of those Magic Elf. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, speaking of you-know-what, Alexa,
no, I don't know.
turn on the display.
Oh, you have Alexa turning on your LED panel.
Alexa, turn off the display.
I'm sorry, Rick. I'm afraid I can't do that right now.
Rick, open the pod bay doors.
Alexa, turn on the
is that what you say? Words. Is that what you say when you go into the bathroom?
Open open them. That might be the Bombay doors. I like that. I like the font there too. That's pretty much how we have it.
Well, it's scanned from an actual logo, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just took interesting discovery. Sorry, when I joined the first time. Don't have the video open in Facebook and Zoom at the same time. Not a good idea.
There you go. Feedback loop.
What you do is you mute the second one, the Facebook.
Oh, Bill says I entered that in an Exidy Sorcerer. Hey, Nick's here. Hey, Nick. Nick Marentes.
And that toilet spun backwards.
Good eye, Nick.
Was that actually true? The Coriolis effect?
Yep.
I have no idea.
I thought I heard that was a myth.
No.
Not in the toilets.
When you're at the equator, it can actually split and go either way or not at all. But as you go lower down below, the effect gets stronger. Okay. So if you're like in the Philippine Islands, it's a slow rotation, but if you're in Australia, it's a faster rotation.
Huh. Remember that Simpsons episode?
This is also why hurricanes and typhoons never start near the equator. There's not enough differential. It has to be in the lower or higher longitudes.
So you're saying it's safe to be at the equator from natural disasters?
You can't create a typhoon or a hurricane or whatever at the equator. It has to be above or below it. Now, it can cross it in its path, but to create it, it must be far enough south that there's a good differential in the Earth's rotation.
Welcome to Weather Talk, everybody.
I hear that Nick has to have his camera upside down so the video comes through right side up.
Yeah. Nick is still muted, though. I wonder what's going on with Nick. Nick Marentes, do you copy? Oh, there he goes.
Yeah, I just had to set up my mic, yeah.
There you go.
But as far as that information...
But they're all upside down.
That comes from physics. Not weather, it's physics.
That's
I'm all about the physics.
Right?
Excellent. So what did we not talk about today that we need to talk about tonight? And it doesn't have to be CoCo related, obviously. Did we miss any important topics?
I don't know. I could frighten everybody and talk about one of my other retro systems.
The only thing I was going to say was in Facebook when Ed showed off his keyboards and he hadn't laser cut the lettering on them, everybody couldn't stop commenting about the fact the keys had no labels on them. And they're wondering, well, is it going to be Braille?
Well, the last picture he added did have the etching in it.
Yeah, but nobody goes that far through the list. They'll look at the first two or three. No, there's no letters on here. How am I going to type? Where is that frickin' A key?
Right.
It's like typing class.
Well, there was actually one I forgot to share too with the news, but that's okay. The show went 3.5 hours, but they had posted an update to the adventure game designer kit that's being being worked on for CoCo and Dragon support. So it's kind of this cross-platform game engine that has been running on like the Acorn Atom and a few other machines like that. And there's a bunch of games already for it. And so once they have the CoCo and Dragon version, number one, we'll get a huge library of games that we can just instantly, compile and run on a CoCo 1, 2, and Dragon. And then we have this tool set for people to create, like tile-based platform-style games and arcade games without necessarily having to, write everything themselves.
I hear this guy named Scott Adams knows something about adventure games.
No, arcade games, not adventure games, arcade games. Arcade game designer. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, there was just a recent update to that in Facebook. I saw today.
I hear this guy named Nick Marentes knows something about arcade games.
He does.
Only OS9 though. If it's not OS9, I can't do it.
Well, no. It's not just OS9. It's ease of use.
Ease of use edition.
I really think that you have some opportunities there to create an interesting game leveraging OS9's networking abilities and its larger storage capacity. That you could really make
yeah, and so far you're the only one who thinks that, Barry. So
I want arcade games. I want cutting edge, and that leaves out OS9.
Bare metal performance. Yes,
that's what the fun is. I program the gimme. I don't program OS9.
You can actually, like I've said, you can.
Nah. He doesn't. He's not.
Interrupts and take over the
No, he's just not interested though, Barry. You gotta drop it. You gotta do like they do in that movie Frozen. Just let it go.
We need an OS9 towel for the tears.
Yeah. It will not come from Nick Marentes, but maybe from someone.
You're gonna make me write an arcade game. Is that what's gonna happen?
Yeah. Actually, that'd be good.
You do it. Lead by example.
Look, I'm not saying that OS9 can't do it. I just can't do it to the level that I want it to be done. Every cycle is important. I can't afford to have any given away to OS9.
It has different strengths and weaknesses. Agreed.
Yeah, well, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have something that needs like every single cycle of the CPU to do what you're trying to do, it doesn't lend itself to that.
No.
That's something when you need a large infrastructure to handle, for instance, communications or large
big graphic adventure game. That's what we want.
Yeah, that would be good. Like something like a Sierra game or a Sands of Egypt on steroids.
Yeah,
exactly.
Even if it's like in the vein of those of Steve's Sands of Egypt.
Yeah,
something like that, but uses nice color graphics and stuff. Would be nice. Sierra games are good, but they just show how slow.
I think there's an opportunity though for a multiplayer type arcade games.
Yeah.
Interactive. That more than one person could, or even where you could play, two people could play against each other. That's the sort of thing you could do.
It can be done, and there are strengths definitely, but the point is that most game programmers prefer to have a direct connection with the hardware and aren't interested in having an OS 9 layer there. So,
well, once your program starts running, like
take a hint though. He's not interested. I know you are, but he's not. So
there are actually programs under OS 9 that are games that do that to some extent.
Yeah. Maybe Steve Bjork can show us the ropes.
Well, I know if I'm doing a game that has a guy running around in a 3D landscape, and it has polyphonic music, and I'm told I'm going to do it in OS 9, I will never say yes to that.
No. But your game that you've
from the
currently
past,
done,
there, Rick, haven't you?
What was that?
You've learned from the past.
I sure have.
Yeah.
but your current game that you're doing, Rick, that would actually be quite good under OS 9.
It would actually, yeah.
Yeah, but you spend all your time writing your own operating system environment for the game. It seems kind of like, why go to OS 9?
Well, that's the thing, you know. You don't really, under games, you don't really need an OS under there. You always, over time, you develop your own libraries anyway. You've got the libraries optimized for games.
Yeah, I could have done it either way, and that would have been fine.
Yeah.
You know? So there's no good reason that I didn't do it with OS 9. OS 9 actually would lend itself to that game very, very nicely.
Right.
That one would, yeah.
So so why did I do it the way that I did it? Well, no good reason, you know. So.
But you're also kind of reacclimating yourself to develop for the CoCo again, and especially developing for the CoCo 3. So it was just a good exercise to get something done, right?
Right.
Which game is this we're talking about? And I wonder if it could be ported.
Dallas Quest.
No.
No.
Rick Adams' current game, which is OmniStar.
Oh.
Right.
Oh, that's that one where it has that network thing where it has.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be.
And it's mostly text.
Are you gonna? Is the source to that going to be available?
Not really. Well, actually, the beginning of that game, I got when I first started on that game, I got it to a certain point, and everything about it was public. You know, so the source to the beginning of that game actually is available online on my GitHub. But then, at a certain point, I got it advanced enough in the game that I just sort of, drew the curtain over it and said, "Okay, you can't see anymore." But until I got to that point, all the source for it, which is all the font and the text rendering and the windowing code and stuff like that, is all in a program in my GitHub, and you can see the source to that.
Okay, that would be useful.
I'll have to look at that and see, just out of curiosity, to see what would be involved in setting up a port or getting it to run under OS 9.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is SourceForge like GitHub?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are they similar?
Mm-hmm. And if somebody wanted to port it to OS 9, I would probably just give them the source. Because it's not top secret; it's just secret.
Right.
So,
I'll have to poke at the GitHub stuff and see what might be involved.
Yeah. Because I mean, the fear is that somebody's going to take the source and they're going to make their own version of the game, and and make it so I could, I won't ever sell any. Well, A, I'm not going to sell a lot, and B, we don't have jerks like that, so it's not that much of a worry, but yeah, so you can see the,
right. I mean, yeah, because if it's thrown out there, it is a potential $1 or $2 that might have made its way into your pocket. So that's a valid concern. If anything else, you work, whoever you're going to share your code with is going to be somebody you would trust, but maybe the goal of that becomes whatever they end up producing is something you would just be selling the Nitrous 9 version of the same thing, and, and then boom, there you go. So you sell the final product.
I do have somebody right now that has the source to that, because I want their input on what I might add to that. So
okay.
Now, if and when I do come out with a game, my plan is to more or less try and sell it as some sort of shareware type environment or Patreon or whatever, something along those lines, and just see what the community will do, and that will say whether or not I write another game. Because, to tell you the honest truth, I've had it with piracy.
Yes.
In this day and age, everybody is like, well, I'm upset because you won't make the game piratable. You just won't do that. I want the right to be able to do that to the game and like that. But the thing is, do I have a right to make money on it? It's just like,
if you made it,
it's just like, I hear the same things on YouTube. I can't use Disney's content to make my video because they won't release the rights. Why do they have to keep owning the rights to the thing? I want to use it. Gee, they spent, $4 billion to buy Marvel. Don't you think they had the right to make some money off of it? So it's just like, there's always this argument about the stuff. I had another website I was at where there's this company that makes these great videos for your Halloween display where they got ghosts moving around, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And the posts are very blatant about, well, I've got some of these videos. You got some. Hey, let's share them. And I told the guys, this is like going in the store and literally stealing the DVD of the videos. And they go, no, it isn't, because you don't know if the video is going to work before you buy it. They have demos that you bring down that get a watermark of the name of the company across it. You can put that video up and see if it'll work. So it's just like they come up with all these excuses, but what it is, they just don't want to pay for somebody else's work. And when I was working on the game stuff, I mean, I'd go to Color Computer Club meetings, and there are these people in the back wall. They spent the whole meeting pirating the software.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is my livelihood. This is the way I made money. But, hey, look, it's going to cost me, $20 to buy the game. I can't, I'm just not going to do that. I'll spend 50 cents on a disc and I'll get it that way.
Yeah, I think even now, I know hopefully we've matured a little bit. We've gotten a little wiser. But when you look at, we've had a discussion, there's a lot more new hardware than there is software. But when you look at hardware, I don't think anybody, number one, you can't really just duplicate and pirate hardware, right? No. Which is one benefit. But when it's tangible, I think it's easier to perceive the value of a physical product. If I'm buying a CoCo SDC for $50, there's a circuit board, there's chips on here, there's it plugs into my computer, it makes a sound, it clicks, and I do things with it. And that's an easy sale for people. They don't even think about it subconsciously. It's like, this is a thing I need. The price is okay. I'm going to buy it. And honestly, if there was a way to clone hardware, I think people would be doing that. But since you can't, it's a different world. But software, it's a virtual, non-tangible thing. So it's really hard for people to really perceive the value of it.
But Stevie, on your thought there, explain pirating of cartridges. That's
right,
tangible.
because that's tangible, right? So people still want it, right? Because it's software, it can be done. And it's really what the value of a piece of software is part of it is, okay, well, how much fun is it going to provide me? How many hours of entertainment will I get out of that? Is the enjoyment of playing this game worth $20? And hopefully it is. If the game isn't going to provide $20 worth of entertainment to somebody over the course of a few months or a year, then maybe $20 is too much of a sales price. But so part of the value is how much enjoyment am I going to get for that? But the other part of the value, which is harder for people to grasp, is how much time did the author of that software spend learning their craft? How many years did it take? Like Nick Marentes, Popstar Pilot.
And that's the key to software sales.
Yeah.
I mean, like you say, hardware, you can see it. You can see what it is. You can see the work that was involved, and that you can't possibly copy it without major expense and all that. But with software, they don't see all that. They just see a game appear and they say, "Oh, I'll grab that." That's why I do those blogs, and I write up exactly all the headaches and all the problems I have to nut out in order to make the game, and people appreciate that, and it lets them understand what goes behind doing the game. So when the game comes out, they don't just see a game; they already understand all the work that went into that game because they've been reading the blogs or reading the Facebook posts or whatever. Right. So straight off in their mind, they know they're getting something, significant, or they can understand the work that went into it. But if it's just a game appearing, they just see a game, I'll take it.
Yep.
Well, one of the things, it certainly is the software authors right and privilege to set how much they want to charge for the game and how they want to market the game. It's their software. They created it. They own it, so.
Well, it does also have to be priced. It has to be priced fairly.
Yeah. But see, the thing right on your opinion is,
it doesn't have to be. It's their option to price it out of reach if they want to. But hey, they just won't sell any.
But no, see, that's the thing is, you're sitting there saying, we're doing this, we're trying to set the price, we're trying to make the money on like that. It's the user that's deciding whether or not we should make money on by pirating it. That's the issue that I take.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think pirating is, I do create a lot of software myself that I have created as open source or shareware, and that's my option to do so. But it's certainly not, how should I say, it's not a requirement for me to do so. It's something I do because I want to, not because I have to, or etc. So
something that might be something you perhaps never thought about this, but for example, right now I'm making about $1,500 a month, and 5 years ago I was making about $1,000 a month. And the expenses here in Uruguay are about the same as in the US.
Right.
So if Microsoft comes here and they try to sell us, you have Office, and they gave us the same price that they give to somebody in the US. So perhaps for somebody in the US to pay $200 for Office, it's a good price. But in here, it's crazy. It's insane. Almost nobody can afford that. Nobody can afford to pay for that for a home user or one person.
No, you do have to price it accordingly. I mean, my Popstar Pilot, I sold that for $25 US. Now, of that, I'm looking at almost $15 of that was postage and materials. So, at the most, I made $10 out of it per game. I would have liked to have sold it for $10. I mean, that to me is a fair price for the community. We're only a small community. I would have sold it for $10 a copy, but I can't. I had almost $15 in expenses just to get that out the door. So sometimes you do have to weigh up and work out a fair price, fair to you and fair to the end user, which is why I'm against all this. People are producing ROM cartridges for $40, $50 when the game, when you strip out the cartridge and look at the game, you have to ask yourself, well, is that game really worth, that much?
Well, that's something the person who's buying it has to decide. So,
that's right.
The one option you might want to look at, I mentioned before, is you can always do the option of electronic, download. Some people like having the physical stuff.
I will be doing that in the future.
Some people just don't care and they just want to play the game, so.
Oh, some people don't care. So I will be offering that in my next game. You can have a downloaded copy for $10. There it is. So I'm making my $10
there you go.
Which is about the maximum I could probably do anyway. And because I'm not posting and don't have any material to make, well, I'll pass on the savings.
Yeah.
But it's a lot less headache.
It's a lot less headache for me as well. But the thing is, there are some people who want to buy as a collectible. They want to see the color packaging. So you do also have to have the real item as well for those people. So, for some people, just doing a digital download, well, I haven't physically got anything, They don't see the value in that. Whereas, if you have something physical you can hold in your hand, they think, well, that's worth it as a collectible. I mean, a lot of people who bought my game weren't even game players. They wouldn't have bought the game because they like playing the game. They bought it because, one, it's a collectible, or two, they were supporting another CoCo user, and they were aware that that person spent a lot of time creating the best he could possibly do, and they're supporting the end user. So that's why I do it. If no one bought any of my games, I would say it's a waste of time. But by people buying the game, it's showing that they are appreciating your work. When you know that your work is being appreciated, that's when you're out to keep on producing.
Right.
So
right.
I think we've got a pretty good market at the moment with the color computer. They're not all pirates. I mean, there will be some pirates in there. There are some who don't want to pay the big money. Some will be happy with digital download. So in the future, I will be doing both. I'll be doing a digital download at $10 and a packaged copy for $20-25, depending on what the postage and all the material costs are.
Yeah, that's exactly the same model that I'm looking at, in the sense that I'm going to make available a image that you could download, put it on an SD card, and you can run the game. There'll be another thing where you can order an actual SD card and it'll run the game. I don't know if I'm going to make a floppy available, because I don't think the next game I write is going to fit on a floppy. So,
well, no, but even so, I can't find any working floppy disks out there.
The same thing here too, and like that. But see, that same image or whatever could be set, the one that's downloadable, that could go on a PC. You could use DriveWire to bring it in, and boom, you got the game up and running. Or you've got it on the SD card for your SDC, and boom, you're up and running.
That's right.
If somebody wants to pay for it, sorry, if somebody wants to pay for it, I did find one site that still has new old stock and refurbished floppy disks available for sale. I forget what it was called, but
I did see that site, but
then you also have to have working drives and floppy disk controllers.
There's about 500 SDCs out there, so if I could sell 500 copies of my game, I'd be happy.
Sure.
Wow, that many SDCs.
Physically,
I'm impressed.
Yeah. Apparently, Ed has sold 500 of those. Yeah. Now, some of those, the same person might have bought 2 or 3, But even so, that's still a good number. Yeah. I wouldn't really worry about floppy disks.
See, my model also echoes off of what Stevie said earlier, is that we've matured a little bit and we may be willing to actually pay for our software, opposed to saying, what is the cheapest way to get the software? And we'll see what happens. And if it does well enough, it might encourage me to make a second game. So, we'll see what happens.
I brought Bruce Moore stuff. It was good.
Yeah.
I have some technology that I'll share with anybody who wants to do an electronic distribution, but doesn't want to see it pirated. If you contact me in a personal message, I've got a way of doing an encrypted signature that you can embed into the binary, etc., so you can tell if somebody copied the game.
Oh, trust me, I've already got something set up that I could do on the SDC that does that. but I would hate to try and do it because people would then say, "Oh, that's Steve. He's out doing copy protection again."
Well, it's not really a copy protection. You can still copy the game. You can make a backup. You can make 7 backups. You can make 20 million backups. But those backups will have that signature on it, identifying it to you and who bought it.
Yeah.
Right.
But still,
So
they
you're
can
narking on people.
But the people are still consider that copy protection because it's saying who the source code was from.
I don't consider that copy protection. I consider copy protection something that keeps me from making, which is why I don't like copy protection, keeps me from making a backup copy of, my game that I legitimately bought. And if I hadn't defeated some of the copy protection on my original disc that I paid for, I don't think I would still have readable copies of some of that stuff.
No, that's true.
The digital distribution you're talking about, does that allow you to run the game in emulators?
Yeah, it's a disk image, so you can run it in an emulator for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I like that model. What I really like is giving the consumer a choice. And I believe that a majority of people probably would just opt for the convenience of a digital download. Let me have it now and let me use it right away. But I believe there is a percentage of people that would like a variety of other tangible options. And I think if you can provide those choices, that would be great. So I'm thinking about offering, when I'm ready to release this version of Cosmic Aliens, I have the digital download will be free. But I'm thinking about making a limited run of some SD cards with a label and, sell those, $5, $10 just to cover the cost of materials and shipping. And then I was even thinking about making a handful, limited run of floppy disks just because I have the ability to make them, So
do yourself a favor, and even if you make it free, post a Patreon or something.
Oh, yeah.
So if we want to make a donation to you because you certainly put work into it, etc.
That'll be even in the game. The game will be plugging the website and donation links and Patreon, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so all that will be yeah. So a little bit of shameful promotion will be built into the game. So it'd be kind of like an episode of CoCoTALK. Well, we interrupt this game in progress right now to run a sponsor message right now.
Are you going to have a skip ad?
Skip ad, yeah, right. It'll just be actually the original version of Cosmic Aliens. The top 3 lines in the center of the screen, I ran scrolling banner ads, but they were advertisements for I work for a chain of stores called the Bite Shop. So I had the name and phone number to the 3 locations. I had the names and phone numbers of a handful of local BBSs that I was using at the time. So there was like banner ads built into the game back in 1989, and I was just plugging stores and bulletin boards back then. So I could probably do something similar to that, just have a one line of text somewhere on the screen that just gets periodically updated over time, or at least on the game over screen. I'm going to have my website, visit cosmicaliens.com, stuff like that. So.
Well, see, believe it or not, most of the software that I write these days, especially for my pod hackers, all that software is Creative Commons. It's free for everybody to download, use, modify. The only thing they can't do is take it and sell it as their own. But I also ask the community that if you make improvements, put it back into the community group. What I make my money off of is the hardware, selling the boards and the parts. So that's how I've gotten around the piracy issue.
Yeah, there's actually 2 kind of piracy, I think. One is where, you get a copy of this and you sell the copy or you give the copy. And another worst is when you have an actual fake. You get something, you change the logo, you change a couple of things, and you sell it saying, hey, I did this.
Right.
That's a counterfeit.
Hey, here's a version without all of Steve's adware.
Yeah. Would you like to buy a legitimate copy of Poop Star Pilot?
Now, according to my attorney, I may be getting into another copyright lawsuit because somebody is taking some server software that I wrote and trying to pass it off as their own. So right now we got cease and desist letters.
Disgusting.
Yeah. So I'm trying to fight that. Now, I will warn people, if this starts to go to a actual case in court, I may have to go out there and look out on the websites for anybody that has any copyright material and send cease and desist letters. Because one of the things that they tell me time and time again, and this happened before, if I don't stop every known piracy of my copyright material, I may have problems defending against this case.
At the very least, they have to be distributing it with your permission under a license, which is a way to get around that if you want to allow a free distribution.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is somebody, if I know somebody's pirating my software and I don't shut them down, it gives them in court the ability to sit there and say, well, he's not out there actively protecting his copyright, so we have rights to the software.
Yeah, I know about that dilemma. That's why, you know, there is the option, though. You can say, well, you have to get permission and you can offer it under a license if you want to allow it to continue to be available.
Yes. But the thing is, I would have to start doing that for thousands of sites. No, I've got to shut them all down. It's too expensive when you got an attorney involved to do it for 1,000 sites.
No, yeah, I know. Attorneys are expensive. Tell me about it.
So that's the issue I may be running up into a couple of months. So right now, I take a blind eye to any of my CoCo software that's out there. In other words, don't tell me about where I've got software. If you do, I'm going to have to shut the site down. Just the fact that I know about it means I have to shut it. So don't let me see it. Don't paste it on Facebook. Don't paste it on Discord in the public areas. Keep it private, and I won't see it, and I won't have to shut it down. But if I do know,
don't ask, don't tell.
You got it. You got it. Just fair warning.
I do have a favor. It's a favor that all of you guys who've written software for the CoCo, do us all a favor if you would, please. Put something in your will or your company so that when you pass on, so that software then becomes distributable, so we don't lose it.
I'm sorry, I can't do that because I have heirs. They have to be able to make money off my copyright. See, I have a lot of copyrights that are not in the color computer area, and they have to continue to be able to make money after I pass away. So I can't do that.
What do you
I'm
mean
just
you
planning
have
on not dying.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean you have errors?
Heirs.
Heirs, as in wife, as in kids.
I thought
Heirs
you meant
to the throne.
errors.
Oh, you have those, do you?
Hey, Nick Marentes, Rob Inman says, hey, I just bought something called Donut Disaster. Is this real?
That's what happens when you go to Krispy Kremes.
All right.
Your blood sugar is a disaster.
So I got to do two things. I've got to get rid of some fluids I've already accumulated and replenish my fluids that have been drained from the bottle. So I am. Hey, there's Mikey with an MC10. Oh, micro calor.
Ordinaire.
Calor.
Ordinator.
Micro
from Canada.
It's a French MC10. So it's an MC10. It's an MC10 with an attitude.
It's an MC10 ha-ha.
Yes.
Maybe that particular MC10 from Canada will actually apologize for what it did to the deluxe.
Yes. All right. I'm sorry. We're really sorry. We're sorry. Yes.
Oh, here we go.
I'm gonna run a commercial break while I pause for the cause and grab another beer. So guys, smoke them if you got them, drink them if you got them. Potty break time. We'll be back in just a few with more of this nonsense talk. See you in a few.
Hi, Ron Delvaux, Timberman, CoCo Fest, CoCoTALK.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me. It's Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. You know, gameplay. To get your copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD today, head on over to 8bit256.com. There you will find several DVDs featuring color computer gameplay videos by the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh. So to get your very own copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD, head on over to the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com and tell them the Original Gamer Stevie Stroh sent you.
Let the Radio Shack TRS-80 put the world of color computing into your home. Instant loading program packs turn any color TV into an exciting game arcade. And there's more. The color computer is an educational aid, a home management tool, an up-to-the-minute electronic information service. The programmable, expandable TRS-80 color computer from $399 only at Radio Shack, the biggest name in little computers.
We now return you to CoCoTALK.
How does it feel? I'm still believing.
What if you could go back in time to just the right moment and ensure that Tandy won?
You definitely earned this office.
Thank you. Yes, you're too kind.
Oh, I'm much happier breaking stuff. Life has been a dream.
But what if you went back to the wrong moment?
Give me that. How do you even know what that was?
Listen, I don't really care about these blueprints. I just want...
Say, who are you? You want to spy for Commodore or something, are you?
Just move! Oh. Hey, hey! Hold the elevator! Hold the
Stop right there.
Whoa, whoa, no need for guns, no need for guns!
So, Mr. Anders.
All right, I'm back.
You have stumbled upon my little secret.
Welcome
There
back.
is no point in waiting for security. I think you are about to have an accident.
Okay, no.
CoCo. Forever.
I love the remix version of this.
Oh,
It's like the
that's-
Crystal Method has just remixed this, you know?
Bruce wrote that music, eh?
That's Bruce Moore, fellow Canadian.
Ish, 2018.
I really wish he'd flesh it out into a complete song. It's really good.
So what is that? What is the deal with that CoCo Forever thing? What is it? Just a video, or what is it exactly?
Australians, Canadians, It is primarily an audio drama that you listen to. You have to download their episodes. It is a for sale product, so you buy each episode as they're released, and for the most part, it's an audio drama. So you listen to it. It's an MP3 file, and it's a story he's concocted about this alternate reality where somebody went back in time. But on top of listening to the audio drama, he has some augmented reality material where there's like photos to look at. So there's some bitmap pictures of things. There's some PDF files of news articles or magazine covers. And every now and then there's actually a piece of software you run on a real CoCo that goes along with it too. So it's a mixed media experience, if you will. And it's a story that's taking place over a total of 10 episodes. And I believe he's released up to episodes 8 right now, 0 through 7, right? So there's 8 episodes out there. So he's released 0 through 7. We've got 2 more to go. So it's really something that's never been done before in the CoCo community.
Some of you guys are the voice talent, right?
Mm-hmm. And the word talent can be used somewhat loosely in many cases.
Yeah,
so,
you know,
yeah.
I'm being
Yeah.
how much will it cost to do the Amazon thing where you buy the entire series when it comes out?
Yeah, I think it's like $1.99 per episode or something like that. So I think the whole thing would cost you $20. I could be wrong, but it is cocoforever.gracenote.ca. Matter of fact, I will just pull it up because Mark just posted the link to it. Mark D. Overholzer, who should be on the call with us. Mark D. Overholzer. All right.
How long is each episode?
Well, it depends on the episode. They're so they're $1.99 each, and they could be let's just say on average probably 10 minutes. I don't know exactly because I've only got like the first 5 of them myself. So
and some have software.
So if you got all 10, it'd be like a 2-hour feature presentation.
Could be, yeah. 10 times 10, 110 minutes. Yeah, could be. Yeah, could be. Right. And so some of them have like bonus content where you can hear some of the outtakes, or you could read the script of what was on paper versus what made it to the final cut and things like that. So yeah, he's got right now 0 through 7 are out, and it's going to go from 0 through 9. And now it's really interesting, and they're very well produced. When you listen to them, Bruce is an audio engineer and a musician and a producer and a mixer and everything else. So it's really recommended that you listen to them with headphones because everything's in stereo. You can hear like background noises, like when you're in Tandy Towers, you can hear the elevator door open. You hear, footsteps, and you hear like the receptionist in the lobby and stuff. So he's really created this kind of theater of the mind experience when you listen to these episodes. A lot of thought and engineering went into the production of it.
Well, do you still have the first couple episodes, Steve? Remember you were showing them as part of CoCoTALK?
Yes, we did.
You still have them up there? If whoever's asking the question might want to check those out.
Yeah, it was Barry asking the question. Yeah, I forgot which episode it was, but there is an episode of CoCoTALK where we
did the first 2 or 3 episodes.
We debuted the first 2 or 3 episodes as part of this show. I don't remember what number episode that is, though.
They were at CoCo Fest too.
And they were at CoCo Fest where you could listen to them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I made it to CoCo Fest once, but I'm, being down here in Florida and CoCo Fest being in Chicago, I made it to the 25th anniversary.
Yep. Yeah, I was there.
But it's not something that I will be a regular attendee of because it's a bit of a trip from Florida to Chicago.
Yeah. I'm running through the same challenge right now. I couldn't make it to VCF Midwest this year that I wanted to, and now I'm hoping I can make it to Tandy Assembly in Ohio. But yeah, it's a financial and logistical hurdle sometimes.
And packing up my CoCo 3 and getting it through the PSA screen was an interesting experience.
Yeah. If I go this year to Tandy Assembly, which I'm really hoping I will, I'm going to drive. But still, it's a 16-hour drive, so I'm not gonna, unless Michael Brandt carpools with me, which we're hoping he will. I don't know that I myself want to drive 16 hours straight.
Literally, I was like, what is this thing that has all these wires and electronics and connectors and everything in your luggage? Oh, that's a computer. That doesn't look like a computer. That's no laptop. What is that?
Did you have to show them that it could boot up?
Oh, that would be interesting. No, but they did open it up and they looked at it and they're like, oh, you're kidding me. I'm like, no, I'm going to a retro computer show. They're like, all right, move along.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that my suitcase got looked at when we went through Chicago Midway, because the TSA left me a note, had a CoCo, the FPGA, CoCo 3 FPGA board in it.
Oh, that would look like that looks like that could possibly be some type of explosive device.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everything
How you doing,
was
Mikey?
still there. Doing pretty good.
With the bomb threat cartridge?
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
You're back stateside, right, Mikey?
That's right. I'm at home.
Yeah.
Here in the office. So, office/computer area. Tornado in here, but whatever.
Opposed to a monsoon, huh?
Oh, yeah, we survived that typhoon that was a near miss to Hong Kong. That was a little scary, actually. The building was swaying back and forth. Kind of felt a little bit like being in an earthquake, but there's a lot of wind and rain outside.
Oh.
So yeah.
Well, we're glad that you made it back safely and not too much casualties, if any, there during that typhoon. Pretty much everybody dodged a bullet.
In Hong Kong, yeah, I don't think I heard of any casualties except for thousands of trees.
Yeah. Hey, tree lives matter.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back, Mikey.
Thank you.
I saw your name today when we were looking at the CMOC page where your DW term. Did you write that in CMOC?
I did.
Ah,
neat. I did use CMOC for that. In fact, a week or two ago, Pierre Sarrazin sent me an email actually that he changed something on it, on CMOC, new version of CMOC. I have to change something. That was completely unexpected. I'd never expect a compiler writer to send an email going, "Hi, you have to update your software to the latest." That was cool. I haven't done that yet.
Huh.
But yeah, I've been haven't been working on DW term, but I have been working on PyDrive wire. So
neat. Now, is your DW term, is that source code available? Is it open source or public domain, whatever you want to call it?
yeah, it is. I can give you the link to post in the chat, but
No, I'm just curious. I mean, if you want to do it, you can. But it's yeah, no, that's kind of cool though. That's actually very cool.
It's on GitHub. You can fork it. You can send me, merge requests or bug reports. Perfect. Please do it.
Yeah, that's way ahead of where I would be right now. But right now, very short term, I want to start doing assembly and learning assembly. But learning C is something I would like to add to my vocabulary at some point in time, because the C language can be that skill set can be transferred to modern development, and I eventually want to work on some modern stuff using Unity and stuff like that too. It might be a couple of years down the road, but
C will be easier to learn than assembly.
Well,
Absolutely.
that's why I want to learn assembly first. So
Well,
go through the struggle.
I would say yes and no to that. C has its own particular set of quirks.
Well, it's true, yeah.
But
you
it is
know what you're doing.
It is fairly impressive the fact that we can do C for the CoCo, if you think about it.
Is it under
technically,
OS 9?
well, it's CMOC is a cross compiler, so
CMOC, sorry.
CMOC can build binaries for both RS-DOS and OS 9.
There's also an OS 9 C compiler that works fairly well. I wrote a bunch of stuff in back in the day.
Yeah.
Yep. We had that on our original gray 64K CoCo 1. So.
Wow. So how long has the C language been around?
1975.
Wow.
I was going to say mid-70s, yeah.
Wow.
I have KNR on the shelf here, I could tell you. But
well, the thing is, C is considered a middle-level language. Low-level is assembly and stuff like that. And, of course, you have the high-level languages like Fortran, Basic, Cobalt, Snowball.
Interpreted.
Cobalt.
Yep.
Oh. The only reason I said C would be easier than assembler is because you got built in your if-then structures and all that. You don't have to worry about doing branches and things like that. Like, it's more English-like, but
gotcha.
So
but definitely gotchas in C.
Yeah, one thing that C is not really going to do for you if you're just using the base C language by itself. It's not really going to help you talk to the hardware. And you still have to sort of understand talking to the hardware. And, if I write something to this adjusts the PIA, this adjusts the display or the serial port or whatever. But one advantage of C over assembly is that you can use a library. Somebody's actually done the work to figure out how to massage the hardware. So that's what's cool about CMOC is it's not just a C compiler. It actually has a bunch of libraries to come along with it.
Right.
That I'm using one in DW term called high-res text. Pierre has some of his own libraries. And you can just look at the documentation, learn how to call the things in the library, and off you go.
And there's one of the devil in the details, because you got to know the calling conventions for those libraries.
No, you don't have to know the internal. What
I said the calling conventions, not the internals.
Application binary interface, which is something I'm not gonna describe here. You're calling a library. They have a function that says p mode or something. You don't have to know how the compiler actually implements that. You have to know if I call p mode, I need to give it two numbers, 4 and 1 or 4 and 0 or whatever, right?
And in the right order and with the right data types.
Right, but that's in the documentation for the library. If you have a well-written library, it has good documentation.
Yeah, so they're basically giving you the syntax.
How to call the functions.
Yeah.
Oh, I do agree. And if you have a poorly written library, yep.
Yeah, and so they had that. They had that with Pascal, and even like when I messed with Visual Basic years ago, they had where you could call into like DLL files, which were libraries too, where you could call a DLL and for the dialog boxes and things like that. So, yeah, that's not a foreign concept to me. So that's it's actually very impressive that those things exist for use with the CoCo, if you think about it. You know?
Well, even in BASIC, what you're talking about here is really just like the basic commands to do a get or a put or a set or the other things. That's the advantage of high-level languages, whether it be a library or an actual command. It's just making life easier for you. But they have to make everything so general that they run slower.
So this DW term, is this a DriveWire terminal program for RS-DOS?
That is 100% correct.
Oh, neat.
Tell us a little bit about it, Michael.
Yeah, previously, we've only been able to really access the DW serial interface from OS 9. That's been one of the drawbacks. But yeah, it's interesting.
Hey, Barry, just so you know, we have this show called CoCoTALK, and every week we get together and we actually talk about these things.
I actually did.
And I do show up for it from time to time, as you know. Sometimes
but
I'm messing with you, Barry.
You gotta listen to the show. You just can't talk on CoCoTALK. You gotta listen to what everybody else.
Yeah, but let's hear from Mikey though.
Don't give him that much of a hard time. Yes, I did give a demo of it on a previous CoCoTALK. Probably one of the ones immediately following CoCo
Fest, yeah, or right before, or right after.
Immediately following one or the one after, but so I had this idea that like John Linville and you guys are going, oh, there's no way to use. No, wait a minute. I have my history wrong. I actually did this project about a year before you guys were complaining that there was no DriveWire software for RS-DOS. Sometime in 2017, I worked on it originally. Just sort of like, oh, this would be something cool to do. And I sort of pulled, when you guys were complaining about that, I'm like, hey, I've got the project for you guys. So DW term was my first program that I wrote with CMOC. So, but I'm sort of like at the expert level. I know how to combine C and assembly language together. So I was sort of practicing that with CMOC.
Now, does DW term require your Python DriveWire server?
No, it does not.
Okay.
It is supposed to be 100% compatible with the Java DriveWire server. If it isn't, I will take a bug report and fix it.
So how does it work? Do you load it in as a DSK? It's a DSK file?
Yeah. The distribution zip file has a whole bunch of, it's a standard RS-DOS disk image. And excuse me 1 second. Okay, that's beer. The disk image has a whole bunch of different versions, depending on whether you're on the DriveWire library. There's actually a DriveWire library that allows you to talk over the bitbanger port, and they have a version of that for CoCo 1. They have a version for CoCo 2. They have a version for CoCo 3. They have a 6309 version. They have a whole bunch of different. They have Becker port. They have a whole bunch of different versions of the actual code that controls the bitbanger port. So if you download the DW term distribution image, there's one for the RS-232 pack, etc. So there's a whole bunch of different ones. You just have to, just pick the right one for your system, and basically load them exec. And as long as you have your serial cable works and your DriveWire server is up, you should be up and running.
So, if I use my RS-232 pack, I can still communicate through the DriveWire at the same time, or I guess I don't have to.
You can think.
I can save stuff off. Like if I downloaded something, I could save it off to DriveWire.
No. All that DW term is right now is what you type on the keyboard. It sends out over DriveWire over a serial connection.
Okay.
That's all that it does. It basically, what you type, it communicates through a serial channel like as if you were talking to a modem, but you're talking to a drive wire server.
Can it save anything to disk? Like
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. There isn't any download capability right now. That I would have to add.
No buffer either.
No, it's extremely simple right now. It could use a bunch of these features. I just haven't had time to, put any of that stuff in. It's extremely basic. You type on the keyboard. What's your question, Barry?
If this is all open source, just coincidentally, I happen to have the full source code to this program called XCOM 9. Maybe you've heard of it. I wrote it. I wrote it. So in there, I've got the source code that I wrote for X modem, Y modem, etc., and all kinds of stuff to do those file transfers.
Huh? Isn't that Nitrous 9?
It is, but the assembly code that actually handles the file the logic and the algorithms that do the compute, the CRCs and the checksums and stuff, that would all be portable back to an extended. You would have to modify the code because it is Nitrous 9, but the algorithms and the way that it computes the checksums and the CRCs and everything would all be portable back to BASIC.
I see. So this goes back to something Barry and I were jabbering about earlier. So I could look at the source code to XCOM and take some of the functionality out of there, which is written in assembly, and I can actually hook that up into my C program. So I can call it from C. And that's something that would be kind of interesting to support, X modem and Y modem and those kinds of things. That sounds like a pretty big project.
I may have, I'll have to look around and see if I've got it, but I may have some standalone programs that I wrote in C under OS 9 that I'll have to check that do X modem and Y modem as well. That's actually source. So
well, I mean,
if I can find that and dig that up, I'll have to see if I can get that over to you.
We have X modem and Y modem and Z modem command line tools for OS 9, don't we? I mean, those are probably written in C.
Yes, and some of them I wrote. Some of them I didn't. Some of other people wrote, but so I've got source code to some of that stuff. I think if I can dig it up.
So supporting ANSI would be another big hurdle, right?
Oh yeah. I haven't done that yet. So if you go to something like I was playing with DW term and went to what's
internal affairs. Internal affairs.
Yeah. And it's just like a screen full of garbage.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell him you said as BBS is a screen full of garbage.
Well, he also wrote the BBS to take an effect of just text. It's like
so you can tell your terminal type. Yeah, a lot of BBSs did that. Like, what is your terminal? Do you support ANSI or are you just text?
Yeah, if you're just text, he has some text graphics.
Gotcha.
Some of these CoCo terminals should support the OS 9 control set. That way, you could do some really neat stuff with that. Actually, you can actually transmit graphics.
Yeah.
Roger Taylor came up with NetMate, which is pretty powerful.
I actually transmit graphics.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Roger, hold on one
Taylor
second.
Came up with NetMate. Oop.
My browser just refreshed itself on its own. I got sound. Sorry about that.
Whoa! Yeah. Why am I? Yeah.
Sorry about that. I got rid of it. Yeah, but it's kind of neat though, Mikey, what you did. The fact that you have a program that does not require OS 9 that's able to talk through DriveWire. It's pretty impressive, and hats off to you.
Yeah. So, the original question that you asked, Steve, was is the PyDriveWire server required for it? And no, it's not. When I was writing DW term, I was trying to use the Java DriveWire server, and I did not understand any of the. I turned on, has a whole bunch of debugging stuff, like logs that scroll by when you send bytes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand any of it. None of it. It made no sense to me whatsoever. And so what I decided to do was I wrote my complete own DriveWire server in Python to learn how DriveWire worked. Mostly so I can get log messages that I understand from it. So I worked on the DriveWire server, the PyDriveWire and DW terms sort of together, but the PyDriveWire server is not required. It's supposed to be completely compatible with. I mean, I tested it with RSDOS, I tested it with Nitrous 9, I tested it with Fusix. It works with all of them. So
how complete is that DriveWire server that you wrote as far as features? And it doesn't support MIDI, right?
No, I haven't. I've been kicking around the idea for that, and I've been talking to what's his name,
Bill Pierce.
Bill Pierce, yeah.
Yeah.
I was mostly talking to him about his whatever his program is,
Altamuse or something like that.
No, not the MIDI stuff, but yeah, I've been talking to him about that.
The directory program for OS 9.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah.
M-Shell.
Yeah, M-Shell uses a bunch of extensions to DriveWire, which are not really documented. So I was talking to Bill Pierce about that. I was talking to him about MIDI a little bit. So it has a disk to go through the main features. Disk I/O is completely supported. Disk images, regular disk images, it won't really do. JVC or some of the other ones, just straight disk images. You can open a disk from a URL, like DW disk insert drive one, HTTP some URL. You can that's supported. It's really not complete support, but it's enough for most of the things. The virtual serial works pretty well. It took a lot of work to get the virtual serial working, and it has a minimal AT command support. So like if you type ATI, which is the modem information command, it'll say, oh, I'm PyDriveWire version 0.3. And in the latest version that's available, there is experimental printing support.
For experimental printers?
Right. Vaporware printers. So if you do does it work on RSDOS? No, not really. You can print from RSDOS, but mostly Nitrous 9. If you do,
there is a patch.
Yeah. Robert Galt has a patch that you can actually print over DriveWire from RSDOS, and that should work fine. But right now it only supports text. It doesn't support FX80 or anything like that. Because it's still experimental.
Probably if you dump FX80 codes, it'll probably just dump it into the file, right? So it's in that respect. So then if you had something to translate that FX80 document into something you could view, then it would work.
Right. So, I really want it to be a complete drop-in replacement for the Java DriveWire server, implement everything possible. But I just haven't gotten to it,
Still a lot of work to go, huh?
There's a lot of work to go, and I just don't have a whole lot of time. I haven't done any CoCo stuff this week, so this is my second week back from the trip, I think, and it's just been work and come home, and I'm like, I'm dead. I'm not doing anything.
I understand
doing
that
it now.
So.
Well, you're on CoCoTALK. That's doing something, CoCo.
Yeah. Hey, does DriveWire support the RS-232 pack yet in some way?
Yes. So David Ladd did.
David Ladd.
Yeah, he did. This was earlier this year. You know, remember all that DriveWire, TTL, RS-232,
Oh, yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff from earlier. He made a version of the DriveWire serial. You know, DriveWire has drivers. And who's waving?
That's Nick Marotta. He's waving to somebody.
Oh,
He's got a lot of fans, so he's waving to his fans.
I see. I have a fan over here that's keeping me cool.
I got one in the ceiling. Yeah.
So DriveWire does have drivers that can, like, one of the main one that people use communicates with the Bitbanger port. But David Ladd wrote one that works with the RS-232 pack, and that driver will run on a CoCo 1 at 115/200 baud, which on the Bitbanger port you can only do 384K.
Right.
So I do have a RS-232 pack driver or version of DW term.
Neat.
I have not tested it myself.
And didn't he also patch RGB DOS or something like that to work too, where you had a custom ROM where you can now boot up in basically RS DOS and access the DriveWire that way too over the RS-232?
Yes. Again, basically, he just changed the driver for really the functions are called DW write and DW read.
Okay.
And they just have conditional compilation or conditional assembly that says, oh, let's build the CoCo 1 version. Let's build the CoCo 3 version. Let's build the RS-232 pack version. I was working on the Wi-Fi version, which I still haven't finished, but.
So I just sent a link to the chat window there that you might find interesting. It's a program that does an old escape P2, which is your Epson control code and escape code documents, to a PDF file translation. So between that and what you have that captures the raw text, you conceivably bundle that with it and use that, pipe it into there, and you could change the anything that's printed with escape codes into a PDF document.
Well, thanks for sending that. I'll take a look at it. I forgot to mention that the experimental printing support actually does print to a PDF, but it's basically just taking. I found a Python module that you send it text and it renders it to PDF.
Ah, neat.
Can you have it dump the raw output to somewhere as an option?
Of course. Yeah.
And then you could use these PDF routines, which would do all the escape code conversion for you.
Yep.
Very cool.
They're all pretty much the same. The CoCo N just sends even the virtual serial ports and the MIDI. They all sort of work the same way. The CoCo wants to send 1 byte. It sends a DW command. Either send it to the virtual serial, or send it to the printer, or send it to the MIDI. It's just 1 byte at a time, and it's up to the server to figure out what to do with it.
So it'd be nice to have, and your Python DriveWire server, it's on the CoCo Pi image right now too. Like Ron Klein's got that embedded in there, so if somebody wants to turn it on, they could use it.
I think he was supposed to have it in the latest version.
Yeah, and I think it's there because I've seen it.
And does it support working to a real serial port on the Pi as well as the Becker port stuff, etc.?
On the Pi, what do you mean about the Pi?
The on the Raspberry Pi, if you're running Python DriveWire.
If I've got a USB to serial adapter hooked into my Raspberry Pi, can I run the DriveWire server and have it talk with a real serial port to a real CoCo?
Oh yeah, that's all in the Linux side. You just tell the Pi DriveWire server which port to open. Dev, what is it, TTY AMA 0 or something like that, versus USB TTY USB 0. Yeah, you just tell it what port. It just goes off and does it. The only issue with the Raspberry Pi ports is there could be some baud rate issues depending on the clocking, but that's out of scope for this conversation.
Yeah, and I think the regular Java drive wire is already there too, but he's given us options on the CoCoPi distribution, so we could switch between traditional drive wire server or Python drive wire. I believe he's also got the MC10 server on there too, the MC server that you could turn on.
Yep.
But because they're all running as different daemons, you have to stop one before you start the other. But I believe they're all there. They're part of the image, and they can all be enabled or disabled through a menu even. So that Ron Klein's put a lot of stuff in that CoCoPi image.
Yeah,
I'm very glad to see I'm very glad to see a DriveWire server that's not written in Java going forward, because Java, unfortunately, is beginning to turn into a dying language a little bit as far as support is concerned. So
Yep, we can thank Oracle for that. They want to make their money, and they don't believe in open source. So all the cool things that Sun was doing to promote Java, Oracle is not interested at all. They're not really interested in Java open source. They're not even interested in Solaris open source. Open Solaris died because of Oracle too.
yeah, Oracle isn't doing that great overall in the database market either, but that's another story.
Another story for another time. All right, who else on the call right now has got anything they want to chime in with us? We've heard a lot of drive wire, and I probably need to shift gears so we don't put everybody else to sleep. But what else? What else is going on in our lives?
I'm going to have to shift gears and take off and go do some stuff. So.
All right, Barry. Have we beat the show to death, or we got anything left to talk about tonight? Anyone?
Give us a minute.
I need some moment.
Prod you guys before I leave here with something else to get you going again.
Yeah, why don't you see if Nick Marentes will make a game for an OS 9? See how well that conversation goes.
Maybe a couple of panels.
On ROM cartridge.
Yeah.
Theoretically possible.
Everything's possible, but he's got no desire to.
I wasn't talking about the Nick Marentes part. I don't know if that's theoretically possible. I was talking about the ROM cartridge part.
Oh, the ROM cartridge part. Oh, yeah. I actually like cartridges, and so I know some people look at them as a financial hurdle. I don't necessarily see it that way, but I do think that some of the cartridges I've bought just because I want to support and I want to collect, but I also think that you could have a super duper high end game on a cartridge, and so far we haven't had any like Popstar Pilot level games on cartridges yet, but we could, and I would definitely support and want to purchase and collect one on a cartridge, because I think it's neat. Where I know there's maybe different schools of thought, and some people think, well, I want to sell software as cheap as I can to get it in the hands of the consumers. But I think some consumers are also collectors or purists that say, listen, the CoCo games came on cartridges, and it's within our grasp and reach to produce a new cartridge, so why not? So I'm a fan of the idea, and I'm in favor of having that as an option for games, and I would definitely support the games that come out that use it. It's probably $20 in parts and labor to add to the cost of your game. So if Nick still wanted to make $10 a game, he could sell cartridges for $30. 30, 35, and I don't think that's a lot of money to pay for a Popstar Pilot quality game on cartridge, honestly. You're muted, Mike. You're still muted, Mike. Are you talking to us or are you talking to somebody else?
If I could chime in for a second about
Sure.
the cartridge.
Yeah.
The thing is, there's one source for the cartridges, and we're talking $20 for the cartridge. I know myself, as somebody that makes circuit boards, I can make that circuit board a hell of a lot cheaper.
Well, I think
And
most
I
of the
just have
cost is the case. I think the
it is. Well, the case is that's the thing is it was a little expensive to do, and yeah, it's just that's the thing is cartridges made sense when Tandy could produce the cases and get them down to 10 or 20 cents each, and the actual ROM cartridge itself cost no more than $1 in most cases. In a lot of cases, with some of the early games I did, it was close to about 55 cents each.
Wow.
So it was incredibly, I mean, they were actually putting the semiconductor on the board and connecting it to the board. So you didn't actually have the chip. This was technology that was being developed for things like the Atari 2600 to get the cost down on the cartridges. So yeah, they had really cheap cartridges. But the thing is, when you start talking about how expensive the case is, you're making the circuit board, you got to burn the EEPROM, and then some people solder the EEPROM to the board, which should have gone to a socket. But still, that's a lot of money to go not into the quality of the game.
I'm still here, so I got to ask. Vacuum formed case, maybe? I wonder if that would be possible.
No, I mean John and don't remember who, John and somebody else. They actually have the injection molded case.
Brand new
I don't have it handy to hold. It's in a box in the closet back there. But
I've got one somewhere. Yeah, right
the
here.
red one. I was just
Well,
gonna
that's
say,
the thing is Tandy could produce hundreds of thousands of cases in a production run, and they got the cost way down.
Back in the early days of the CoCo, there were vacuum cases.
Yeah, I mean it's a great case. I like the case.
It is
Brand
really
new,
nice case.
Brand new shiny plastic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's nicer than the 3D printed ones.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Did John say how much it would cost to have somebody, if somebody wanted to have him and his team help with production of a cartridge, how much that would actually cost? Did he?
Well, what John has said in the past is that if you have a question, reach out to him, and they would be willing to work with just about anybody. And again, I don't want to speak out of place or put words in anybody's mouth. I believe, based on things I've heard in the past, people are selling the cartridge itself for $15. So that's what Mike Rowan has sold them for. It's what I think Jim Brain is selling them for, and that's probably close to cost. Now, the first run of these injection molded cartridges, I think they got 1,000 done to get the price down, and a lot of the money up front was to get the mold created. So the first run of cartridges is going to be more expensive, and I'm pretty sure they have not gone through that inventory of the 1,000 yet. So there's plenty of cartridges to still be had for probably roughly $15 a pop, and unfortunately, fine Corinthian leather is what Ken's asking. Can we get them in fine Corinthian leather? So, unfortunately, that's kind of the necessary evil. And I think even you might say $15 is a lot of money, but if they had done a smaller run, it would have been more. You know.
Yeah.
So. So Jim Brain's confirming what I said. So about $15. Now, what does it cost to produce the circuit board and the EEPROM and the sockets? You know, if you know what you're doing and you know how to buy the parts and make them yourselves, you could probably do it for dirt cheap. But again, I believe project boards or.
I thought that John and his team would help you with that.
Yeah, and so again, that's where again I came up with the rough round number of about $20 if you want to have team. Cheap Canadian labor produce their cartridge for you.
Crew.
Team CoCo crew produce your cartridges. You're probably looking at about $20 in material costs. I'm not sure if that includes the labor. But let's just assume it's $20 to $25. And then you're looking at a $40 cartridge. You make $15 on it. And if that's what you want to make, again, this is just my opinion. We all have our opinions of what things are worth, but I don't think adding $20 roughly to the cost of the product takes away from the experience of buying it, because I like the cartridge, and maybe I'm in the minority, but I will, if new cartridges come out, I'll still buy them. Ideally, would I like to see a super high-end, high-quality, high-caliber game on a cartridge? Absolutely. But in the meantime, even if they're just casual games on cartridge, I'll still support the community who's making them,
Not too many people back in the day, other than Tandy, that came out with games on cartridges.
Right, right.
Just the economy of scale.
All right, but yeah, I believe that a cartridge, we are due for a high-end cartridge game, and that might change people's opinions. If Nick Marentes put Popstar Pilot on a cartridge and he sold it for $40, I don't think anybody would complain of the price, because the game is still worth $40 in my opinion, and the fact that it's on a tangible cartridge is a nice collectible, and it'd be nice to, for me to go to like my next Florida Retro Club meeting and just pop in the Popstar Pilot cartridge, fire up the CoCo, and boom, I'm in the game. The instant loading program pack feature is kind of a cool feature.
And everybody be drooling on the floor.
Yeah, right. So
you can do that on a CoCo. Oh
yeah.
Man, I gotta get me one of those.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm still a fan. I'm a fan and supporter of new games on cartridges, but I know everybody's got their opinion on the cost and value factor of it. So.
Now, like for example, Z89, that would not fit on a 64K cartridge. Right?
No, yeah, because it's something with large amounts of data. That might not be applicable. Now, what would be nice is maybe a slightly different approach to what you put on the cartridge, because instead of it being an EEPROM, what if it's a flash? And so you can, like the CoCo SDC, if I want to upgrade the firmware in my CoCo SDC, I run a program on my CoCo and I reflash my cartridge from the CoCo itself. So a cartridge circuit board that is flash programmable, where you've got more storage for your program and maybe a second flash bank of like non-volatile RAM where you can save your high scores and save data to another bank somewhere. So a smart cartridge, that might be kind of cool, where you break the 32K boundary or something else like that. So,
Well, a good programmer can also write to the flash too, if they understand how the flash is laid out in the first place. That non-volatile stuff you're talking about for like high scores or save a game could also be stored in the flash.
Right.
Don't we have CoCo cartridges that are 128K that have banking inside of them? Don't I have one? Isn't like RoboCop one of them?
Well, that was 64K if I'm not mistaken.
But so there's already exists some kind of a banking scheme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
and so the CoCo Flash is one example. Matter of fact, just to give you an idea of the difference of the two cartridges. So here, this is okay. So this is a Game Master cartridge without the label. So what you can see here is you can see the nice shiny plastic case. You can kind of see the triangle that's kind of engraved into it, pointing to the direction where the cartridge needs to go. So this is the shiny, pretty injection molded one. Now this is Jim Brain's CoCo Flash, and this is on a John Strong 3D printed case. And I'm not sure how well my webcam is going to pick up all the subtleties, but if you ever looked at 3D printed, you're going to see different like texture lines in there. And it's not terrible, it's not distracting, but it's not as smooth and as shiny as injection molded. This has got the little bump for you to grab your fingers on to, be able to pull it out and stuff. But yeah, so there's a slight difference in these, but I will say I do like the quality of the build of this injection molded cartridge. What it lacks though is any customizability to this cartridge, right? Because it's molded. Like I know Ed Snyder has used these to create his own Orchestra 90 cards, but he had to drill holes in them and stuff like that. So if anything else, if there was one like this, but maybe some perforated knockouts where you could like modularly break open little windows to it for a project board or something like that, that might be kind of cool, where you don't have to drill open
Well, there
something like that.
Companies that have laser CRC machines that will cut the holes in those cartridges for you, and the setup charge isn't that bad.
Steve, your audio has completely changed. Did you unplug your mic and switch to a webcam or something else like that, and you've become quieter and more echoey?
That should be better.
Okay, better.
Oh, much better.
Yeah.
We can hear you now.
Yeah, but that's the thing is you can have somebody with a laser CRC machine for practically no setup charge cut holes in those cartridges.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's different ways to make a cartridge, and so there might be some ways to get the cost down a little bit, but I don't know. I would like to see more things on cartridge myself, more games and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have a dumb game idea. If I ever get around to it, I'll consider cartridge.
Yeah. When I finally have a game that's in assembly that's, what I would consider to be commercial quality, I would like an option for that game to be produced on cartridge, even if it's just a limited run of 24 or something like that. I definitely want to have one for myself, and then some for other people who might want to have one too.
I know a lot of people have heard me kind of poo-poo the cartridge. My opinion is that, yes, you can have the cartridge, just make that cheaper option available.
Oh yeah. That's why I'm a fan of choice. And honestly, I've kind of pitched this to people too, is the idea of kind of like the super deluxe collector's bundle. And I would buy one of those too, where if somebody says, look, I want $10 for digital, I want $20 for an SD card, I want $40 for a cartridge, and another $10 for a floppy thing. But if you had the whole package where you can get them all for $75, $80, even $100, I think some people, a super uber collector, might want to have that deluxe combo pack. And again, I might be in the minority there, but I would love to have a new game from Steve Bjork on cartridge, floppy, SD card, and digital, and have the bonus package. I would definitely be in favor of that.
Well, we'll see what the future holds. Hopefully there's a future.
Yeah. Oh, Chad Cunningham says he would like Audio Spectrum Analyzer reissued.
Well, what's interesting about that is when they were developing the CoCo 3 and Audio Spectrum Analyzer wouldn't work on the CoCo 3 because it didn't support the graphics mode. I did give Tandy a replacement. It was 2K in size, and it worked on a CoCo 3. It used a regular graphics mode, and they never did anything with it.
Imagine doing one now with like more colors, like the 64 color palette and things like that. Like your kaleidoscope could look a heck of a lot better, probably.
Yeah, well, the thing is, going to the higher graphics mode, it was a 3K screen instead of the size of screen I was working on for the original Audio Spectrum Analyzer. It actually lowered the quality of the spectrum analyzation.
Oh, because more CPU time had to go to visuals instead of audio processing, huh?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So,
that makes sense.
That program was, as I said, extremely finely tuned. And doing it in hand assembly was a lot of fun tuning it.
Yeah. Diego says he's got to go. Good night, Diego. Buenas noches.
Good night.
Take care, everybody.
We're all dropping like flies now.
Why? It's not quite midnight back there.
Yeah. But somebody had brought up that question before too, like just remaking some old games for the CoCo 3, just adding more color, and you have different ways of doing that. Either patch it with just the palette statements and it's still the same game with better color, or you remaster it, so to speak, using the higher resolution modes. But you've also mentioned that, well, the higher resolution modes take up much more memory and could theoretically be slower.
Exactly. Because we're looking at a factor of 4 or 5 increase in graphics memory.
So
and the CoCo 3 is only twice as fast. But we've also learned some things since the original CoCo 1-2 days. Yes, I could do my original Zaxxon game. I could do definitely better in a nice 4-color screen. Palette registers and like that. I've learned a few things since then. But I think I did well enough with Z89.
Yeah. Oh, Reggie, is Stratton? How do I say your last name? Reggie Stration says, I would like to see more CoCo 3 program pack games. All right, so we got another cartridge fan besides me. So
Registration?
Registration, huh?
Registration?
Yeah, could be. Yeah. Rob Inman says, if we follow the sun, CoCoTALK could be endless. A West Coast feed, an Australian feed.
There you go.
Yeah. It's been 27 days.
Continuous CoCoTALK marathon.
Yeah, I mean, twice in one day is quite. I mean, we did, what, 3.5 hours? We're coming up on 2.5 hours doing the math. What is that, 6 hours already in one day?
It's a lot to listen to every week.
It's, the world deserves better than that. So, we need less CoCoTALK. Reggie.
Wasn't my assembly language lesson long enough for these guys?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I missed it. I'll have
Maybe
to listen
we should
on the
do
replay.
maybe we should do a black and white CoCoTALK.
The noir, film noir version of CoCoTALK?
Yeah.
How do we do that? I could put a filter on the whole thing, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure exactly how to do it right now. But yeah.
What P mode would that be?
Could it be 0? What are they? 0, 2, and 4, right? So it was 1 and 3 were the color modes. It was the odd numbers, right?
Well, you got to be careful. If you don't do the black and white image correctly, you're going to get color in that P mode 4.
Yes.
There's a black and white color computer.
There you go.
Just something wrong with that, isn't there?
My first CoCo 1 was connected to a black and white TV.
Yeah.
Then when I got my white CoCo 1, I got a composite mod for it and hooked up an amber monitor. So it wasn't until I got a CoCo 3 that I actually saw it in color. Rob Inman says, could we have a silent film CoCoTALK? It would just be like talkies. We have a little card come in once in a while that says what we're saying. Yeah.
Shade of Mel Brooks's silent movie. And the only person that talked in the whole film was that mime.
Yours or mine?
All right, so if we beat the show to death, we have anything else to talk about tonight? We're running out of hot air for this balloon.
Yeah.
Is that sepia that we got there now, Ron, or is that just a different angle?
Nah.
Okay.
But different angle.
Ron, did you happen to notice if we made it to Roku today?
Yeah, today we did, yes.
Okay. It's important.
Absolutely.
Absolutely important. Very cool. All right, guys. Well, parting thoughts, words of wisdom, free advice.
Nothing's free in this world. Except your death.
Death and taxes, right? So,
of course, then you still got to pay for the funeral.
Hallelujah. All right. Well, how about we do this, and how about we wrap it up? So let's see who was in our live chat today. How far back can I scroll? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll, Tootsie Pop? Let's see here. Man, we had a lot of live chat here today. So in the live chat today, we had Christopher Peterson. He was asking us about some type of fight. I missed that one. I don't know, is there an MMA fight going on tonight or something? Rob Inman, Chris Peterson, Mark Overholzer, Nick Marotta, Al Hartman, Rob Inman, Blake Hughes was in the live chat, Steve Powell, Bill Noble stopped by for a spell, Mikey was in the live chat, Carlos Rosa Mejia was here saying hello from Weston, and Bill Noble, and Al Hartman, Nick Marotta, Ken Reichard, brother of Jason Reichard, Rob Inman. Who else did I miss? There's just so many names here. Al Hartman, Mark Overholzer. Mark never joined us, said he was making dinner. Tom C. from Jersey was here in the live chat. Nick Marotta was here. All kinds of people. So if I forgot your name, you know who you were. There we go. So thank you all who watched us live. We got now we got Al Pacino in the background there. We got Star Trek going on. Mikey joined us. Retro Innovations was here too. Retro Innovations. Jim Brain, and barely even really trolled us that much. So Registration was here. And so registration says that Timberman is the closest we've seen to a new cartridge. You mean on the CoCo 3 side of this because it was on an SD card? I'm not sure what you mean by that registration. So Retro Innovations was here, and Retro Innovations. Chad Cunnington has been here. Ken Reichert. And in Facebook, we had a few people too. Brian Joyce was here earlier. A few others on the Facebook side of things. So thanks, guys.
Hey, Stevie, I had a friend that was in the chat.
Who was your friend? Or is that just a joke there, Al? Because you always have a story about a friend.
That's right.
I had a friend. I had a friend from Brooklyn, and he was in the chat. Well, yeah, Tom C is your neighbor. He's in Jersey.
He's in Jersey.
Jersey.
Right a few exits away.
121, right?
No, that would be north of me. He's south of me.
Okay.
He's in Tom's River, I think.
All right. Well, we're gonna end the train wreck now, people. Coming up on 2.5 hours. So, Retro Talk, Geek Talk, CoCoTALK, After Dark has concluded.
DriveWire,
DriveWire,
RS-232,
all that good stuff.
Wi-Fi,
Python, CMOC, ASM. Paul Fiscarelli, any parting thoughts? He might be muted. There he goes.
Yeah, I'm still here, Steve. No, nothing for me, but good chat tonight.
Thanks, and we got to watch your latest episode on how to do your Hello World sample things.
Long Branch Never, is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's correct, Mikey. Long Branch Never.
I got to see that.
Long Branch Never. All right. Well, we're going to start the closing ceremonies here, and we may or may not be back here. But what I will say about After Dark is we got some badass music to play us out to. So let's go ahead and start that right now. Oh, yeah. This concludes another episode of CoCoTALK After Dark. The old guys are getting tired now, so it's time to curl up in the bed and take our meds. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Viagra, Propecia, and Lipitor. Rob Inman says the boner pills are wearing off. Should an episode of CoCoTALK last more than 4 hours, consult your physicians.
Get off my lawn. More than 4 hours.
If your retro project lasts more than 4 hours, it's time to...
Was there a Myro commercial that was along those lines? I don't remember exactly.
Oh, something like that.
Too hard.
I know. There we go. Paul just posted a link to Long Branch Never episode 2. It is there. It's on YouTube. We will watch it, and we'll do that. So don't forget your Lipitor. Don't forget your blood pressure meds, your high cholesterol meds, your hair replacement products, your ED pills, whatever it is that we need when we get to a certain age. Make sure you take those pills. And good night, everybody. What's on the screen there, Ron Delvaux? What do you got there? What were you just showing?
It's just a bunch of ROM picks.
Okay.
It seemed to be apropos.
There you go. We're talking about cartridges. Yes. Yeah. I would like the idea of a reflashable cartridge. So if if you had that software glitch that needed to be fixed, you could just push out the update, say, here, run this, patch it, and you get the latest patch, and no chips need to be pulled. That would be kind of cool. I think that's doable, right? We got the CoCo Flash. It's got,
CoCo SDC also.
Yeah, CoCo SDC's got like 8 banks, I think, but the CoCo Flash has got the equivalent of 1,000 banks of ROM that can be configured to be bank switched in the whole 9 yards. So, yeah, the technology's out there.
Yep.
Far out, guys. All right, well, we're going to push the button, Frank, and we're going to end the train wreck one more time. All right. Everybody remember, David Ladd loves you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.